Welcome to the Six-Figure Author Experiment, where we help you break through your first or next $100,000 goal. Parental discretion is advised. Now, let's get on with the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Six-Figure Author Experiment. Hi, Lee. How you doing today?
I'm great. I'm glad that I've got you doing the jazz hands too.
Yes, it became a thing like some episodes ago, and now I feel like every time I do anything ever, I have to do jazz hands. That's what I've been doing since basically March.
That's a solid plan.
I agree. I agree. And today we have our good friend Mal Cooper, who was not only a speaker at our Future of Publishing Mastermind last year, but also an expert on Facebook ads, written over 100 books, just like a legend in the indie publishing community. Hi, Mal. How are you doing today?
I'm great. It's, fabulous summer day. What could be there? What could there be to complain about other than my inability to speak? That's going to be a problem for the next hour.
I feel like it could be, but we often deal with that too, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's why we have a podcast. Someone's like, you just ramble on and on. I'm like, that's the podcast. Yes.
That's what it's for. Yeah.
We tried to do 20-minute episodes and they quickly ballooned up to like 2 hours. And we're like, now if it's more than 45 minutes, we're like, just cut this in the middle, Jim. Just cut it in the middle, Jim.
And Jim's like, I can't. You guys are talking over each other nonstop. So
yeah.
He does his best. We love Jim.
Poor guy. Sorry in advance, Jim.
Yes, absolutely. So we both know who you are, but Mal, do you want to introduce yourself before we get started?
Sure. So I'm Malorie Cooper. I write military science fiction and space opera under the pen name MD Cooper. And I do indeed have over 100 books out. And I've also been doing Facebook ads along with my wife on our books since 2016. And that was the thing that took us from selling like 300 books a year to selling like 300 books every 2 or 3 days kind of thing. So when I started seeing other authors saying that Facebook ads don't work, I'm like, I'm pretty sure they do. And I built my career around it as an author. And then after that, we built an entire business around helping authors do Facebook ads. So every day I'm in Facebook ads. Our company, The Writing Wives, works with dozens and dozens of authors at any time. So we have 5 employees now. And on the average week, we're working with like 30 to 50 different indie authors on their Facebook ads.
Awesome. And you also wrote what I consider the definitive book on this subject. You're on your fourth edition of that book?
Third edition came out last January, not this January, but the last one, or no, last June. And Facebook has made so many changes actually this year that I'm working on a 4th edition as well now. So it's going to be like, I think the way things are going, it's probably be like every year and a half, there's gonna be a new edition of the book now. And that's helped my Facebook ads suck, which was in response to so many authors basically coming into that time, the 20 books, 50K group, where I hung out and saying, help, my Facebook ads suck. So I'm like, this is going to resonate.
Yeah. That's the title of the book. Perfect.
Yeah. I mean, it's its own market research, right? Like it's what we tell everyone to do, like go and find what everyone's talking about and use that language.
Yeah, exactly. That's bang on.
Yeah. And of all the business books that I ever read, that was one that has stuck in my head, the name of it. Like I can never forget it. So it's a good job. Good job, I think.
Thank you. Thanks.
So Lee, do you have any specific questions about Facebook ads? Because I have one.
No, I was just going to give everyone an overview that Russell and I met in New Orleans, and where I also met you, and we hung out. It was fabulous. And he said, I have all these books that are not on Amazon. They have been successfully launched on Kickstarter and direct sales platforms. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, get your books, please put them on the place.
It's pretty wild though, right?
Yeah.
Like it is cool that it worked.
Yeah, I kind of am like, I'm not sure if this is groundbreaking advice here from me, but like, get your books up, Russell. So I'm here to cheerlead / yell at him. And he's launching the books right now. Book 1 has come out. Book 2 will be out. It's kind of a every 6-week rapid release schedule because he has 12 of them done. And then another series with a bunch of books off. It pains me to speak of this. Like, just put them up. But we've talked strategy and pre-order strategy, launching strategies, and a lot of it was culling what he didn't want to do and outsourcing things that he thought would be a good idea, but want to just pay someone else to do. And I think that that's very healthy because we're in a time where a lot of authors are like, okay, how do I not burn out? And there's so much opportunity and so many things we can do, but we want to be in this career and enjoying it for as long as possible. That's the other constraint. So Russell did not do a lot of the launch checklist, which is great, which is awesome. And now has more opportunities to launch book 2 through 10 and do as much or as little as he wants. And one of those things will be Facebook ads.
So this is timely then ish.
Yes.
Timely-ish.
I feel like I can say, get your books on Kickstarter because you could build an entire career without retailers on Kickstarter too. Or you could have, my goal is to have 2 careers, one on Kickstarter and direct sales platforms and one on retailers that both kind of move between the, like seamlessly work together to reinforce each other. And I know you did that too, right? Like you did some really nice Kickstarter launches recently.
Yeah, we've done 3 of them for various books, 2 for fiction and 1 for nonfiction. I've yet to actually launch a book on Kickstarter. I do want to do that at some point. Jill's actually writing a trilogy in my universe that we plan on launching on Kickstarter. But everything else has been like the first one we did was an audiobook Kickstarter, and then the second one was a 10th anniversary for one of my books. And then the third one was for the 3rd edition of Help My Facebook Ads Suck. So it's kind of cool to do them and like have like very different angles we were taking. You know, one of them was like trying to make a new product and then also realizing I have to give all the non-audiobook people something as well. And then one was like just repackaging a product and doing fan service. And then one was, I guess in a way, the third Help My Facebook Ads Suck was a new release, but it's not exactly a new release because it's nonfiction, you know, so it's a revision instead. But yeah, I think Kickstarter, I love what you're doing because I always think of books, you know, from a business standpoint, they're a product. I've made this product. How many different ways can I bring this product to market? How can I bring it into different verticals? You know, anything you would do as a business when you're thinking about like, I've got this asset. I don't need to build a new asset all the time. I can just find new places to sell my existing asset. And that's such an awesome thing that you're tackling with that.
Yeah, I love that because Monica and I struggle with this all the time of like, what's the next book we're going to write? What's the next book we're going to write? And we look at each other like we have 40 like nonfiction books between the 2 of us. Like we never have to release a new book again. We can just release new editions or like same thing with like, I know authors, even with like when they're doing community stuff, they like think the only way to make money is with brand new, fresh content. Yep. And I met my Gina Bianchini, who's the head of Mighty, and she blew my mind because she's like, content is irrelevant to the success of a community. And I was like, what? She wrote a great book called Purpose, by the way, which everyone
that's a bold statement.
Yes.
Wow. Editor, put bold statement cotton in here. You know,
yeah, absolutely. But it was so interesting to read her book and go through the methodology and like, frankly, like we're writers, so like clearly like content's going to be a part of it, but the way that she thinks about like you can just repackage all of this stuff that you did before. You could like farm out AI stuff to like do community things. And like, as you mentioned, like you can just repackage the books. We have a community person going through all of our content right now and just literally listing it all in an Excel file. And every day I look in and there's like 100 new pieces of content. And I'm like, wow, we've done a lot and we probably don't have to do as much in the future, but it's hard. I think it's hard for writers to get that over there. Right.
Oh, I thought I had made 6 figures in a year and that was a goal. And then I was like, well, I want to make more, but I'm going to have to write in a bigger genre or subgenre of romance. I'm going to have to write small town rom-com romance. And I tried and I failed. I got bored. I was like, maybe don't write more of these books because you're so bored. But instead of it being a bigger launch or a breakout book or a unicorn book that just sells and sells and sells, it was taking everything that I had done and translating it into German. That pushed me for 7 figures in a year. And now I'm on like lazy mode or easy mode of authoring where I'm like, okay, I will produce some new content that I want to produce, that I'm excited to produce. But a lot of my money is coming from backlist or producing the new content and getting a launch in English, German, French, Spanish, Italian, and audio, German audio now. Like just taking the same piece of content, like you guys said, and just going further with it. And it's weird. Like, it took me a while even to get into like discrete covers, which is a whole nother way to, it's just repackaging. And this is a book that I can't run ads to with the current cover on Amazon, because it's a throuple and it's very racy, and Facebook's like, no. And that's fair. Like, it's their platform. I get it. I'm grateful Amazon just allows me to sell it, but I could probably start, and have looked at starting to run ads to this book again, because Russell made a comic book script for it. It's going to be a comic, which is yet another iteration of taking the series and giving it new life. I just have to show these up. I'm so excited about my.
Oh, I love that. I love the rainbow.
Skittles covers.
So cool. That is awesome.
Yeah, that's great. So one of the things that I think is great also is like, I follow Elena Johnson, all of her emails, even though I don't really write the small town or read the small town ranch romances that she does. But every month she's like, these 7 books are like, and she has like 100 books in her series. She goes, I have 100. Here's 7 books about X thing. Here's 7 things about Christmas. Here's 7 things about this, or 10 things. And it's like, once you have that content, it's not even like putting it in order. She can just say, all of these books like randomly have a dog in them that like gets lost or something like that. And like, you even can start breaking stuff out that way.
Yeah.
Yep,
I think
mini anthology with a puppy on it.
I had a very similar journey in a way, Lee, because I in 2019 I wrote 44 books because I was a crazy person. And some of them were co-authored, but for me, co-authored books actually take longer to do than non-co-authored. But the co-authors, at least they bring new ideas and points of view I could never bring. So I value them. I never use co-authors for speed. I use co-authors for telling a better story. But I was at Nink in 2019, and it was September, and I was feeling a little bit crispy, wondering if this writing thing was really what I wanted to do. And I was meeting authors, and that year was up over $500,000 for me. And I was meeting authors who were making the same amount of money writing 2 books a year. And I'm just like, I am doing this wrong. I need to be working smarter, not harder. So I really applaud what you're doing. That's like bang on. And the other thing I realized too is like, wow, producing a lot of books is expensive. Like for me to produce cover edits, and I did a lot of model photo shoots. I had 5 different model photo shoots. So I have like 20, 30,000 bespoke images now and stuff like that. Had costumes designed and everything. So I was spending like $5,000 or more producing each book, and I was doing 4 of them a month. So that's $20,000 a month just in production cost on books. And I'm just like, if I just wrote fewer books, I could possibly make as much money by doing that, and not be doing launch activities. So have more time to, to myself, or to write more books if I wanted to do that. So yeah, there's a lot of, sometimes going faster and going harder isn't always the right thing to do. Sometimes taking a step back and saying, how can I make everything I've built work for me in a new way is a much better way to make money. And then I also sort of said, like, I actually don't need to make $500,000, $1 million a year. I'm actually perfectly comfortable. Ironically, in Massachusetts where I live, $200,000 for a household income is roughly where comfort starts. So it's kind of like, okay, we need to make like $250,000 a year and we'll be fine. So how can I work less and make that money and then have leisure time? Which is, I think, a thing that all of us authors want. We have like this vision of the author who gets up and sits at their computer in their house robe and types for a little bit and then goes for a walk and has coffee with friends and stuff like that. Like in our minds, we have this idealistic author view, and that's like our goal. And if we slave away at the computer all the time writing books, we're also not really, we also can oftentimes feel like we're not meeting our goals because it's not what we hoped being an author would be.
Yeah, I think that there's this thing about like, I went on a little rant about this today about being the best, doing your best. And I was like, I don't think I'm doing my best. I'm like doing my average, but like I've spent so many years doing it at such a high level that I know that my half-assedness is like better than like 99% of people's full-assedness. And like, if we're not, I realized, was like, if I'm not working towards being able to slack off and still do it better than other people, then like, what was all of the sacrifice for the last 20 years?
Yeah, I get that. I totally do.
And one of the ways that you could actually like support all this stuff, and I know Lee does this, and you clearly do it, is like Facebook ads, right? Like, I tell people, advertising, like people have a negative view of advertising, but I'm like, advertising levels the playing field. It allows you to go viral. All you have to do is like pay, and like suddenly, if you pay enough, like every post you ever make will go viral because like you probably cannot manipulate the system to go viral yourself, but you can use ads to either bring more consistency to your outreach or just increase and amplify it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Like I actually really like the way you said that it's the great equalizer in a way, because yeah, so you can have an ad running for 30 days and get like 13,000, 15,000, maybe 20,000. Actually, if it's a reel, you could probably get about 30,000 impressions over the course of a month just by paying $150. And if you value your time and you assume, like, I don't know, like for me, I would say that my minimum amount I value my time at is $50 an hour. And if I have to spend 3 hours making reels each month in an attempt to go viral, that's as much money. I could have spent that money on an existing reel and put it in front of just as many people.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
so it definitely, it works that way. I tell people all the time, like, you don't need ads. You could beat the streets and find all these readers as well. But when you're beating the streets, you can't write the next book, or you can't like have that life of leisure that you want to have, whatever it might be. Like, you know, so if you're writing ads, then you can focus on writing the next book. You could do the thing, or you could beat the streets as well and double your reach. But it's a great, it's, for me, it's the thing that's allowed me to actually, you know, it's sort of like side secret. It's an open secret. I haven't published a book in 3.5 years. And to be honest, I mean, my readers would kill me. So hopefully none of them are listening to this, and I won't do this, I promise. But I could never publish another book again and live off my writing income for the rest of my life. Just by running ads, just by repackaging things and rebranding things and putting them into different ways and whatnot. Now I've actually taken these last 3.5 years to start working on a whole bunch of new stories and stuff. But the fact that I have this backlist and I have ads has allowed me to take this 3.5 years and not write any books.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love that. So, why then does everyone hate advertising if it's such a great thing? Like,
I mean, I don't think everyone hates advertising.
Many people. Why is the general
I
like?
think because it's sold as you push a button and money comes pouring in.
Yeah.
And it takes a little more than that. Malorie, you can speak to what it
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think a lot of people do build it that way. And a lot of people, like, there were talks at 20 Books last year where the people giving the presentations were like, follow my method and you're going to become rich, you know, kind of thing. And I'm like, that doesn't exist. And anybody who says something like that has so little experience that they've not taken their method and tried it on 100 different authors, you know, and that's one of the things I kind of had to learn too. I had to learn a bit of humility early on. And luckily for me, this was like 6 years ago, and I've built on a lot more since then, but I had to learn that what worked for me could actually devastate another author's business. Just because the tactics, the methodology, the messaging, the types of images that I was using, all sorts of parts of what worked for me would actually have a deleterious effect on another author. So I had to learn, like, so whenever I give authors talks, I'm really careful to make it so that whatever advice I give will have a positive effect on anyone. And there might be specific advice I would give to an author with their one-on-one that might be quite a bit different actually than what I might say generally. But the general advice I give is generally helpful and isn't going to hurt anyone. And that's something that I think, you know, you touched on, Lee, like people are saying like, oh, it's going to work, do this, it'll work. And then they try it and it doesn't work. All it does is soak up a bunch of their money. I get authors sometimes, we're spending $5, $10 a day, and they're like, I'm not seeing the returns I expected to see. And I'm thinking, I've actually had to say to them, like, how much money did you expect to get back from investing $10 a day? You know, like that's at best, you're going to get $20 a day from investing $10 a day. It used to be that you could actually kind of work your way up towards 30, but Facebook has changed their algorithms a lot this year. And it's actually a lot harder right now to get a good return off of Facebook. So I used to say, like, I can get any good book that's well reviewed, I can get a 300% ROI. And this year I've had to adjust that and say I can only get 200% ROI now. But even that, like, the stock market is 10%.
Right.
So, you know, 100% ROI is actually still really good. But I don't think it's an expectation a lot of people go into this with.
Is that like a for one single book, or does that like a series that
Oh,
goes on, or is there?
that's series.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've probably encountered at this point maybe 15 books where you can run ads and have be profitable on one book. It's beyond unicorn rare. Like
Right.
it's really hard to do. And even if you can, you're going to get that for maybe 3 or 4 months.
Right.
Like it's
And
not there's no evergreen book that just sells like hotcakes forever. Doesn't exist.
yeah, I tell people all the time, like eventually your ads will break even. You may have to write 100 books to do it, but like eventually, like every
That's
series
true.
can break even. But
Yeah.
like, what should someone be aiming for before they start ads in a series? Like, let's say for romance one, because that's the different like market, and then thriller two, and like that's a different because like that's like a slightly smaller but maybe easier, and then like genre fiction and other things three.
Yeah. So I think actually it's a little bit less the genre that depends, and it's more about your series structure. If it's a linear series where people have to start at book one and then read through to book three or book 4 or 5 or whatever, 3 books is your break even point on a linear series. And then 5 is where you start to see decent profitability. Now, if you have amazing read through, you could actually see good profitability at 3. And if you have terrible read through, 5 might be your break even point. So your read through is a huge factor in how well all of that works. With series that don't have to be read linear, and someone can pick up book 1, 3, 7, and 19, and the character will be largely the same, like a Jack Reacher kind of scenario, or a lot of romance novels. It's like the commonality is a setting or it's a family or something like that. You have like a lot of other advertising opportunities. So we can try ads for book 1, and maybe if they're working okay, we can keep them going, but then we can test book 3, and we have all these different entry points that we can use. So those ones, a well-written non-linear romance series can actually sometimes be profitable, fairly profitable, just 3 books or a thriller. But if it's a linear romance or a linear thriller, they actually fall under the same sort of three. They're less likely to be profitable because you just have that one entry point. And if that one entry point isn't like great and doesn't like suck people in well, then you're kind of got this albatross forever that's pulling you down. And I've actually talked to authors sometimes. I'm like, look, if you want to keep writing in this series and run ads for it, you have to go back and fix book 1. You have to spend some time in there because that's, like think about this from a business. If you want to sell upgrades to a Mercedes, but the Mercedes that you're selling, the base level is garbage and no one wants to buy it, then you're not going to sell any upgrades. It's a
Right.
terrible example, but
Well, what
I'm
does
sure
that mean?
that one's.
Can we take an example, maybe generalize it, but like what do you see not working and then how do you tell them to like fix it? Or are you just saying you got to figure out how to fix it because it's
I
not
have an
working?
example.
Sure, yeah, go for it.
My Brutal Mate series, book 1, it has a guy on the cover, so man chest, but there were some reviews that got pushed to the top that have some spicy words in them, and Facebook won't allow me to run ads to that book 1. So I've tried different things like advertising the next book or a later book, and also a box set that did not do as well. So I need to redo the box set cover to be as clicky as book 1. So that is a repackaging thing. And it's happened before on my spicy series, like Drake in book 1, best entry point for a 9-book series. And I can't run ads to it because it has a couple in a clinch. And that's where like getting a discreet cover, repackaging, or now we run ads to the box set. And I actually went to my co-author and I said, we have to think about this anthology cover in a way from a Facebook ads point of view. We have to make sure the blurb and there's only one guy or one couple, not a throuple or something, or an object that we can run ads to it. So that's an example from my catalog.
Yeah, that's a great thing too. And the omnibus is always, people are always like, I want to try something new in my marketing. Like, do you have an omnibus? Because if you don't, this is how we can test another way of doing things without you having to recover, a 7-book series, which is generally never worth it unless your covers are terrible. Yeah. Taking a decent cover and replacing it with a decent cover of a in a different vein is just going to cost you a bunch of money usually. So omnibuses are a great way of doing that. And that's where repackaging, comes into play, or like you do a Kickstarter for, a 5-year anniversary edition and the Kickstarter pays for the recovering, or something like that. Right. Is a great angle as well. Like I have one, not sort of a backward segue. I have one book now that has appeared. I think it has 9 different covers now because I've had like I got music done for it one time. So I did a special release that if you bought this, you got the music album that went along with it. It's had like, it's been in a trilogy. It's been in 2 omnibuses. It has an extended edition, all sorts of things like that, that I can just take this one product and just sell it. And then the mega fans are like, "Ooh, it's a new cover. It's new art. I want this as well." But it also actually gave me covers I could then use to test with ads. I'm like, I'm going to swap out the ebook cover with all these different covers and see which one works better with ads. And I did make sure when I got the new covers done as well, that they would still fit with the rest of the series too. So if I decided that one of them was going to be the winner, it wouldn't look like apples and oranges when people went on to book 2 and stuff like that.
Right. So it's mostly a repackaging of a book, not like go in and actually like rewrite this book.
Yeah, exactly. Although the extended edition did have, had about 100 extra pages, but they were actually all things that I wrote originally and I cut out. Right. Because people are like, the book is too slow. And I agree actually that the longer version is not like one that's as mass marketable, but for my hardcore fans, they're like, yes, give me the extended edition, because they've already read it. They know what happens. They want the deets.
Right.
So it worked really nicely. But and then sometimes I'll run ads for those separately as well. I'll have ads for the extended edition. And for those people, I can target people who've liked my page and have interacted with my ads or my Instagram account and all that sort of thing. And I can market the extended editions to them. And then for all the people who've never interacted with me, they get the quicker, cheaper original book one.
Right. Yeah, I think it's really interesting because people always think that if they recover a book, it's going to change like the trajectory of their book. And like, I think this with almost all craft things too. It's like, if you have a bad cover, the single best thing you can do is get a good cover.
Yes.
But like, or like a good blurb, same thing with a blurb. But like, once you have a good blurb, like changing that blurb 80,000 times, like people think, oh, it's still not working. So like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. But like, and also with like, I'm going to learn how to write better. I'm going to learn how to do, and it's like, well, you probably know how to write fine. And it's probably like, just like you need to figure out how to do the next thing. Or like, maybe this book just like isn't worth like spending a bunch of time on. But you see all these times with people, when that like growth curve starts to become logarithmic, they still are trying to do the like same stuff that gave them massive advances at the beginning of their career.
Yeah, actually, I have an example I give to people that, like, if you have a car that's stopped on the side of the road and you need to get it moving, you can get out and push. That's a viable way to make that car move. If you have a car that's driving 60 miles an hour down the highway and you want to make it go faster, opening the door and putting your foot in the ground is going to go really badly.
Right.
Like the things that get you started from a dead stop are not the things that will accelerate you later on. To circle back around to something, a point I forgot to make too, about like, do I tell authors to revamp their books? One time we had an author who we were looking at her read through, and it was an 8-book series. And between, I think it was between book 3 and book 4, the read through plummeted. And it was a series where there was a common thread between all the characters. I think it was Motorcycle Club. So it was a bully romance. And what you always do is you're introducing all the future characters for all the upcoming books. So that the reader's familiar with them and comfortable with them. It's like, oh, it's John's book next, but you never name someone John. It's always like, he's got to be Damien, or Rex or something like that. He's got to be sexy sounding. And so Rex is going to be like, Rex's book's going to be enemies to lovers. And he's kind of a bad boy asshole, but he's a cinnamon bun, the right woman is going to find a soft, sick, squishy inward, but you made him too much of an asshole in book 3 and no one wants to read his book. Like, that sort of thing can happen. That's what happened to her. We were actually kind of looking at some of the reviews and whatnot. People are like, I really didn't like Rex and I wasn't sure about reading this book. And she's like, we're like, oh crap, you got to fix Rex because no one wants to read his book. And that's what's killing your read through. So she went and fixed the character, like softened him a bit, gave him like a save the cat moment where he's like, okay, this guy's redeemable. He's got good in him. And then read through shot up, so.
Change it from kicking the puppy to like saving the puppy, and then there's
and then boom. Exactly. Yeah. So it's there can be scenarios where it's worth going back to that book. But one of the things that some people are like, they're like, well, should I rewrite the book entirely? I'm like, no, it's never worth it to rewrite the book entirely. You're better off starting a new book than doing that. But sometimes there can be a little bit of strategic surgery that you can use to make a book work better. Because I tell you, if you're going to run Facebook ads, read through is paramount. Your read through has to be good. If it's not good, then you're going to have to write that 100-book series to get to profitability.
What does good mean?
So the definition of good has changed. It used to be that it was really easy to get like a 50% sell-through rate. So I generally use the word read through to refer to sales and KU, but in this case, I'm going to say sell-through is sales and then read through is KU. So sell-through 50% used to be achievable. 50% sell-through from book 1 to book 2 is almost impossible these days. Unless you're like really killing it and you've got some sort of big viral push going on, you're not going to have that. So generally in sales, you're going to see about a 30% from book 1 to book 2 is closer to average. Good, I would say, is around 40%. If you can get 40% sell through from book 1 to book 2, you're doing great. In terms of KU, also, if you're not in KU, sometimes that number will be a little bit higher. So it's easier to hit that 40% mark if you're not in KU. If you're in KU, a lot of times you could be a little bit lower just because a lot of people are like, okay, I bought book 1, but I'm going to continue reading in KU because the series didn't really strike me that well or something like that. And then on the read side in KU, it used to be that you could hit like 75 to 80% from book 1 to book 2. Now it's like 50 to 60% is actually pretty good. And part of that's just there's a lot of books out there. And one of the things I mentioned to an author just yesterday, I'm like, not only are more books being released all the time, all the old books are still there.
Yeah.
Right? Like in very few other industries is every other product that's ever been released still a viable product.
Right.
So we do have to compete against that too, that the volume of books produced by humans, the volume of books produced by humans in the last 50 years exceeds the volume of all books ever produced by like a long shot, by several orders of magnitude, I believe at this point. You know, so there's a lot of books.
Absolutely.
Which is why you need people to be able to find you. And if you're just trying to just hold up your hand in a crowd, on TikTok or something like that, it can be really hard to do it. So, but if you can leverage ads, that's how you can put your book in front of the people much more easily.
Even on TikTok, it's become more pay to play. I did a little book marketing boot camp with my friends, and I'm going to do it again as a released course in August. And we all went around the table and said, what's working in marketing right now? And one of the most viral authors there at the time, she was like, listen, I'm viral on TikTok and I boost my posts because views have gone down. The algorithm shifted. It will continue to shift. They want to make money. And we saw that on Facebook. Like, you get this, fun time, and then the organic reach goes away. And so I just wanted to put that out there. Like if TikTok was a big part of your marketing, try ads or boosted post. Like, I'm excited about this because I was like, well, I can't lip sync for shit. So let me just pay to play. Just let me do it. But even I could tell oh wow, I used to post and I could get 30,000 views and a book and see a result in sales. And now it's 40 views. And maybe my videos just suck. That's perfectly fine. But I can tell if one starts to pop and then I boost it, it gets actually
it gets up there.
My best reach. It gets way more than 30,000. And it's kind of cheap right now for those views, which that will change too. It's coming. So that's my TikTok plug.
I have a TikTok account that has 75, 80,000 followers, something in that neighborhood. And I used to post videos and get 1 million views. And now I post videos and get 10,000 views.
That's still my ass.
It's still good, but it's just I
love all the stuff that you do. You're I have an album. I have, my characters in cat suits on the runway. I have photo shoots, and I'm oh, this is so great.
I like to do a lot of different things.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I want to circle back quickly and just say, because 30% from 1 to 2, but it's much higher from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, all.
Absolutely. Things. Yeah. Generally, once you hit book 4 or 5, you should be up over the 90s on both. But it's that 1 to 2 that's the most important. If you can't get at least 40% of the people, an average between KU and reads, if you can't get 40 to 50% of the people moving on to book 2, you're going to have such an uphill battle, because you just have to think about the math. If you've got a 3-book series and it's priced at $4.99, you sell book 1, you make $2.70, and then if only 50% of the people move on, then you only make another $2.70 from the sales of book 2 and book 3. But if you can get 70% of the people to move on, you're going to make 350 from those. And you add that extra almost dollar can really start to add up pretty fast.
Yeah.
Versus if you only get 30% of the people moving on, you'd almost be better to stop writing the series because it's going to cost you more to produce those books than it is than you're ever going to make from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why I cheekily say like a series will break even at 100 books, because like eventually you'll have enough.
Yeah.
Like even if you have 1% read through, like there's some mathematical formula that if you have enough, you'll lose money on all the books producing them, but like you will make money on the ads. So like
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
if
just
producing them is somehow free, then you're good. Just keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the most important things that people don't think about is like how to build your ad muscle. Like even thinking about it this way is like hard for authors because they're like, it's money though. But like I feel like, oh well, I'm gonna pay money. I don't know how to discuss like building the muscle for ads to the point that like it's a part of your existence to run them and you actually see the benefit of them. Do you have anything you could talk about for that?
Well, I think one of the things is, and this is kind of weird, people, when I say this, sometimes people are like, dear God, why are you saying this? But if you can't take $300 and hold it in your hand and light it on fire, then you can't run Facebook ads because it's like learning how to run Facebook ads is like learning a whole new craft. And if you can't start a new craft, like you couldn't be sitting there in a bare room and be like, I'm going to become a master chef and just start cooking with a bare room, right? Like you'd have to go out and buy the stuff and you'd have to like watch videos and take courses and make some mistakes along the way, buy this one particular type of pan and realize it was the wrong one for what you're trying to cook. You're going to spend a lot of money learning a new craft, and ads are the same way. You're going to be in ad school for like the first 6 months. You're going to be paying for an education. You're going to be paying, and that education is going to be paid to Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg is going to get a new skin replacement to make him look less like a robot off of the money you're paying or something like that.
Well, I should also say like you're probably going to take every ad class and you're always going to look for this. You're going to look for like the secret, and all of the ones are going to say the same secret, which is learn the fundamentals and test to see what works for you. And like that's the only secret I've ever found in 100 or so advertising courses.
Yeah. Learn the fundamentals of making ads and learn the fundamentals of evaluating whether or not an ad's working, and then test the shit out of everything because everything's different. And one of the things I say to authors is, I'm really glad you brought that up because I oftentimes say there's no silver bullet. Stop hunting for one. There's a lot of times authors, and this goes beyond ads. I feel like authors do this in almost every single part of our businesses where we're like, everybody else knows something that I don't know. And that's how they're being so successful. And if I can just learn this secret, then I'm going to have it all figured out. And that's not what happened. There's a few lightning strikes here and there where they just like don't even know what they did to become successful. And everybody else just worked their ass off, and they learned by just doing it over and over and over again, and then learning what works and what doesn't work. And also I think the other thing is don't treat it like it's alchemy. It's not like we're not making sacrifices to the ad gods or anything like that. Like there's actual science to it. And it's not like, oh, I capitalized the T this time on this one word, and that ad did great. I should try that again. Like, don't treat it like that, and also remember the platforms, their main goal is to make money. So just think about what the platforms themselves are all self-serving. So sort of just think like, what can I do that aligns with their self-serving interests?
Right. I will say that like, to me, the ones that are successful found out the way to be the most them, like in their ads. Like I wrote a piece today, which will be weeks ago once this launches, but I was about like the rapid trend cycle and like all the problems with like AI, like and content farms and all of these things that are working against you. And at the bottom, I'm like, by the way, this was written by AI. You probably don't know that, so like you should. And Monica's like, I could never write that post. I could never make that reveal at the end and make it work for like my audience. They would eviscerate me. And like, I've been working with Monica as closer than any other collaborator I've ever worked with for longer, and also the most different in style to me as someone I've ever worked with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing that like I can write a post that's like another effing thing, really, and like everyone like laughs at it. And I'm like, but like Monica can't write that. Meanwhile, I can't write something that's like heart-centered or like feels as heart-centered as like her stuff does, or like as motivational as her stuff does. And like I feel like our success was like finding the commingling of those two things. But every time that I read something and I'm like, oh, that person's ready, it's always because like they're ready to break to the next level. It's always because I'm like they found their voice, like they found their voice in a because there's that awkward place where they're like not quite there, but like all clicks into place. Like Lee and I talk about it. Like I talk about it with your books too. Like there's like a thing, and you're like, well, locking in ads feels very similar to like this is the style of thing that like works for this series or this book. Might be completely different with my next series or another persona, but like this is the thing that works, and this is how we can amplify it on top of each other.
I like what you said about that too. That's something I've been telling a lot of authors lately, in their headlines, because headlines are becoming more and more important because people are basically not reading anything. And so when people are scrolling on the internet through something like Facebook, the image is what stops you. And the internet has trained us to find the next piece of bold text, because it's like called the semantic web, how we process information based on size and amount of boldness. And then of course we read in the F, so it's left to right and then down. And so the next piece of bold text is the headline. And a lot of readers, and talking with readers and people who actually, use the ads as readers do, looking for books and whatnot, they almost they don't almost never, but a significant portion, I dare say it might even be half, don't read the text above the image at all. They see the image, they read the headline. If it grabs them, they click. And if your headline is commerce-based and stilted, like read for free on Kindle Unlimited, you just told them nothing about the story. And that's what you're selling them on. You're selling them on the story and the emotional impact that your story is going to have on them. And that's where your voice comes in, like you said. Like, so the authors that haven't found their voice, they're writing like, spicy paranormal romance. And other authors are like, that time when your boss told you to stay late and then showed up naked in your office or something like that. Like that's the kind, and you can get away with saying a lot on Facebook these days. They've really lightened the restrictions. You can't say the word senator on a Facebook ad, but you can say fuck on a Facebook ad now.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I sanitize, like I'll do first chapters, because if I can get them to read a first chapter,
oh yeah, then you're sold. Yeah.
Then I'm so like I just lean into my writing, because I'm like,
I've left oral sex in first chapters on Facebook ads.
I know, but I take those out.
I don't anymore.
Posted in it, and the file or something in there, or no, I named the ad like, this is the first chapter sanitized, and I got dinged. They're like, you're selling hand sanitizer. No, it was during the pandemic. They're like, you can't sell hand sanitizer. And no, I'm like, okay, delete the word sanitize, and then it went through. But I also had to make sure the word was out of there. And
oh yeah. Yeah, they used to be really particular, but they've really lightened up. Now, what happens usually is there's a cycle. They're really loose and light, and I'm dropping like cunnilingus in a Facebook ad and stuff like that. I shit you not. That like literally we're doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's going to hit the news though that Facebook is running smutty ads, and then they're going to clamp down.
And so I just try to be safe, but
yeah, I'm all about ads. Don't last that long anymore though. They don't last as long as they used to. I used to be able to run ads for like 2 to 3 years for good ads. Now a good ad rarely makes it longer than 4 or 5 months. So I'm just like, I'm going for broke. They're not going to exist, in a while anyway.
That's crazy to think about. I do want to talk about something that's been my hobby horse that I don't hear anyone else talk about, which is branding ads. Which is just like you were talking about reels, and like how does the branding part of the just like I'm paying for, I call it my not on social media tax. Like I just pay $5 to $10 a day because I'm like, I don't want to be there, or I can't be there. Does that play? How does that play into like your overall thought or your overall strategy when you're coming up with the campaign?
I actually really like doing like I use the ad type in Facebook called awareness, and that's what you would use for branding. I like using them, and I think they're actually really useful because awareness ads will reach a larger group of people for less money. So you can kind of prime an audience because traffic ads, well, so when you're making a Facebook ad, you first like click that create campaign button. At the top is going to be awareness, then traffic, app, and then leads, and then camp, and then sales. I'm missing one. Anyway, it goes from awareness all the way down to sales. And that's actually audience size as well. So awareness is basically Facebook saying, we will show this to people who have the sensory organs to see, to detect an ad. Because there's actually a version of Facebook for people who can't see. So, we're going to serve this to people with a heartbeat, that can observe an ad in some form or another. And then it goes down to traffic. Traffic's, well, these are people who are known to click on ads. We're going to serve this to people who click on ads. And then leads, we're going to serve these to people who are known to fill out forms. And actually will engage at that level with that. And then sales, they're going to serve them people who sell ads. So it's actually a funnel where the ad will show to fewer people depending on what you pick. That's why if you make an ad and you see this massive audience, you're like, why is it not showing this whole audience? It's like, well, that whole audience is actually an awareness audience size. That's like that number is the people with the heartbeat, but you picked sales, which is a much smaller group of people within that audience.
Is engagement in there? Or is that awareness now?
No, you're right. Engagement is separate than awareness, because engagement is people who have a messenger chat with you. That's the one I was missing. Yeah, you're right.
Cool.
Which authors don't want, because none of us want someone to be randomly messaging us on Messenger, before they buy our books. That's not a thing authors want, I don't think. That's for someone selling like life insurance. But so the great thing is, because awareness ads are less competitive and reach a broader audience, they're much cheaper. And you need like 5 to 7 touches for a person to consider actually buying your product. They don't buy the very first time they see your book. They have to see the ad a few times. And so you're actually paying for those impressions, whether, before they click. But if you can use awareness ads to sort of warm up the audience, then you can get those initial impressions much cheaper. So I actually really do like that strategy. It's harder to get a lot of authors to go along with that, though, because they see this ad that's running there sucking up money and has no visible return. There's no like way to track a return on that. So some people will do it, and some people they'll do it for a while. They can't handle it because they don't know how to deal with it.
And it's so interesting because like this is how the entire ad industry was built, like on branding ads, and then like direct sales ads, direct response ads were like the ugly stepchild of like branding. Like no one wanted to do the direct response campaigns. Like it was been looked, and now it's like the opposite thing seems to have happened. But people always ask me about the difference between marketing and sales. And I say, sales are sales. Marketing is everything that lowers the price of sales. Like, so every action that you do, whether it's branding or like engagement or doing a social post that like lowers the cost of awareness or like gets you in people's minds or gets you that, all of that is marketing, and then sales is sales.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. I like that a lot.
And branding is always like, to me, it's like, this is like how you make sales for $2 instead of $20. Like, this is why like Colleen Hoover could probably run ads and like get infinity sales, because like everyone knows her and everyone knows her new book and everyone likes her old books. And now there's a movie, and like, so it's like she can probably get a ton of ad sales from like just like an awareness campaign, just because everyone's like, wow. And so all of that, like, it's like the opposite of the funnel. It's like the more awareness you have on the thing, the more people like will buy from engagement or buy from your community or buy from any of these things.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. I used to run engagement ads for a new book, or like a couple days before the pre-order would go live. And then I would take that ad ID, and I thought that engagement meant it would try to get likes and comments. So it was kind of like going to my people to get some nice comments on there. And then I'd use that ad ID to do a launch ad, a traffic ad to Amazon.
So you'd like preload the ad with a bunch of content on it, which also works too. Like engagement ads also are going to get likes and comments, but there's a specific type that actually like does push for people to actually have spark up a messenger message with you. Although I think you can probably turn those parts of those ads off too. You can turn off the button to message you directly if you wanted to. So then in that regard, they would probably behave a lot like awareness ads. But Facebook might actually be serving them to people who are more likely to engage. That could be actually really beneficial to do that specifically in that use case.
Yeah. So do you never just like record a video and then do like a branding campaign of like you talking about something that you care about in your books or your series? Is that a thing you've ever done before?
No, but y'all are making me really, really consider doing it, because I did some Facebook lives during the pandemic just to be like, hi, I want to be social and I'm just going to do these lives. And they're on my page. And I have authors who found me that way. And they're like, oh, can network. And they did get some reader comments. I stopped doing them, but I think I can show up on film and talk, and that's in my zone of genius. So it would make sense. I have done pictures of Renee and I holding up our book with like help us fire Amazon, and we did to a direct store. Those ads didn't convert the way that just my book cover with a wolf on it or a hot guy did. So I stopped running them, but I was looking at the wrong metric for an awareness ad. I was just trying to, that was a sales ad actually for conversions with that pixel. But I like this. This is good input.
There's actually a secret thing in Facebook, well, semi-secret. If you're building a retargeting audience, so you want to like build a custom audience retargeting people that engage with you in a certain way, video is this special thing where you can like run a video ad and then you can target everybody who watched a specific video and how long, how much of that. Yeah. And the percentage of that video. Every other part of Facebook is like people who engage with my page. And like, that's the bar. So they could like, click, comment, click, anything like that. But video is really specific. So you can actually make like a video or a series of videos about an upcoming release. And then everybody that watched a certain percentage of that video, target them and give them a release ad.
Yeah. Or your big series with Renee or your series by yourself. It's like, I think Emily Kimmelman does a really good job of this. Like, just like she'll turn on a camera and like talk about justice or like something that she cares about or like some reason why her series exists, or like she'll just be like, I like this thing when books happen. Like you talk about the messy hot mess heroine. You just did like that video and like retarget and like have it for like 25, 50, 90% of the video, or like not even retarget it and just use it as like, now I'm going to target other ads to like the same thing. It's like whenever someone says I don't want to do social media, like this is what I tell them that they should do. And they generally still are like, but no one else does it, so why would I do it? And I'm just like, no other authors do it, but like everyone else does it that's like in other industries.
Yeah, you work in an industry full of introverts, so take that with a grain of salt.
You're all like,
yeah, exactly.
Let me turn this on. No one see me. I have to say, Amazon ads and Facebook ads appealed to me because I was like, I don't have to be up there. Even though the first advice I got was like, look, just record yourself doing it. They're pushing video like crazy. They were lying about video's effectiveness apparently at the point at that point. Yeah. But I do think in the new Reels and TikTok economy, like video works really well. So
especially if you want to hit a younger audience, because the majority of the younger readers are on Instagram and not Facebook, and Instagram doesn't do well with still images. So if you want to hit that younger or under 35 audience, you have to do video for the ad to show up on Instagram at a good price. So it's pretty clutch.
Oh, sorry. I love to talk about Facebook ads forever, but I know I want to be respectful of Mal's time. I just have one final question. I mean, I have 50 final questions, but I'm going to use the targeting. Do you just do like Facebook find an audience, or are you still doing custom audiences and all of that other stuff?
I'm still doing custom audiences. They call it wide targeting if you don't put anything in, and wide targeting can work in genres where a large percent of the general population reads it, and especially if a large percent of the general population is male and female. So thrillers actually do work pretty well with wide targeting, and romance, especially contemporary romance, can do pretty well because 1 in 2 women read contemporary romance. So you stand a pretty good chance of like just throwing your ad out to everybody and hitting, and 50% of them being your readers. But if you're going to write something really niche, then it can, the more niche you are, the worse they work. And part of the reason why is that, so one of the things that people were saying back in the day, and they might still be saying it now, Facebook's really good at looking at your ad and figuring out who it's for. And people would say that the Facebook AIs, they look at your picture and they tell you your target audience is. And I know that's absolute bollocks, because when they rolled out the new system where when you go to build your audience, there's 2 boxes. The first box they listen to, and the only thing that's in there is country and age. And the second box is where you put your targeting in, including gender. And so if you see that, click, there's a little link that says use original audience, because that new system doesn't work. And the reason why you know it doesn't work is you make a romance ad, all Manchesty and hot and steamy and all that sort of thing. And you look at your stats and it's serving 33% to men, and you're blowing like 30 cents out of every dollar showing it to men. And that's how I know that Facebook's not that good at figuring out who ads are for, because if it did that, it would know not to show contemporary romance ads to men at all. It is getting better. It's not as bad as it used to be, but I've seen authors blow like $10,000 trying to make wide targeted ads work. And then we built ads for them that are properly targeted, and then they were just profitable. The other thing is that even if Facebook is fairly good at figuring out some of the basics, like men or women, it's not great when it comes to like actually like honing that audience. So if you imagine the numbers just recently changed for what audience sizes are on Facebook. Right now, the maximum number of people you can target on Facebook is 162 million people. If you just put in fiction books and novels, it's going to pull that number down all the way to about 60 million people. So 2/3 of the people who are on Facebook are not known by Facebook to read books at all. So the learning period for an ad on Facebook is about 1,000 to 1,500 impressions. So if you think about Facebook's going to spend, let's just say 1,000, just because it's easy, 1,000 impressions trying to figure out who to show your ad to. How likely is it that those 1,000 impressions could entirely be in the non-reader segment of the total Facebook population? It's actually kind of decent. And even all things being equal, 2/3 of the people that see your ad in the learning phase aren't readers. So that ad will learn wrong, and it will take longer to figure out who your actual real audience is. You're going to basically spend money for Facebook to learn something that you could have typed in the box and told Facebook to start with. So I'm very against them. They can work. They will work better on broader genres. If you write anything spicy or racy or politically difficult or anything like that, don't do it. Because the worst thing is, a lot of people are like, my ad was running for 2 weeks and then suddenly it got shut off. What's Facebook doing? It's like, Facebook isn't doing anything. People reported your ad. And that's what got your ad shut off. There's a threshold for how many reports you can get. And actually, if you get a lot of reports, your account can get shut off as well. Or limited, your account can go into bad standing. That'll actually increase your costs and decrease your reach. So if you're writing anything that might be objectionable to the general public, also narrow your audience. You do not want those church ladies sitting in their pew, pulling open their phone and seeing your throuple on there, because they're going to report your ad. You want to put that targeting in there to keep them from seeing your ad. So that's one of the worst pieces of advice I've ever seen given out in the author community. I think it's almost criminal that people give that advice, like carte blanche, just like, yeah, do the wide targeting, it works. It's like, no, you can destroy people's advertising accounts by doing that sort of thing in the wrong scenario. Like, that's why when I say people like about ads, I'm like, you have to give advice that works for everybody. You cannot be giving advice that can wreck someone's writing career. And that's actually one of the prime examples. So yeah, I have strong feelings about that, and I generally recommend not to do it.
Well, that seems like a great place to end. Actually, it seems like a great place to start for the next time that we have you on, which we clearly have to do to talk about more stuff.
Yeah, regularly as they update.
Yes, absolutely.
The Writing Wives have some awesome offers for people who want help with their ads. So
yeah, we have like some evergreen basic courses and whatnot. But one of the things we're doing right now in September is an advanced class. It's going to be between 6 and 8 weeks long. It's on paper, it's 6. I always end up running to 8 because I talk long. I don't talk for an extra 2 weeks. I just have more content I want to put in. And it has like weekly Q&As and live chats and stuff like that. But if you go to thewritingwives.com, so thewritingwives.com, Facebook ads advanced, and a dash between each word. So Facebook ads advanced. I'll send you guys a link too. You can probably put it on the screen. You can sign up for that. It starts in September. It's going to go for 8 weeks. I'll just say it. And I think it's the best way to get basically everything that's in my head when it comes to running ads for like this one low price. And the other great thing too about that particular class is because it's a group class, you're going to have people asking questions and encountering scenarios that you might never have encountered and might not encounter during that class, but maybe you encounter them in 6 months and you'll be like, oh, Jim in the class hit that issue. I know what to do. Whereas if it's sort of a one-on-one thing, you're just learning on your own, you might not learn that. So I think it's the best way to learn. And I'm really excited to teach it. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Awesome. I love it. And we'll make sure the episode is live before that time, Jim.
Oh, cool.
One thing that I will say before we get out of here is I talk to a lot of authors. I talk about a lot of ad runny humans who add a lot. There are people that people talk about in specific are great at like romance or great at fantasy. But the number one thing that I get when we talk about you is the most competent across the most verticals of all, whether you're writing horror or romantic comedy or like whatever it is. Like if you want just like the best overall human, like Mal and Jill are the ones.
That's great to hear. I'm really glad that people are getting a lot out of it. That's awesome.
All right, so we're going to get out of there now. Let's have a good day, everyone. Bye.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. For more, head on over to sixfigureauthorexperiment.com for archive access, resources, and more. We'll see you next time.